End of Part 1. The Quiet War. Arc 34 never truly slept. Even during the designated rest cycle, when most habitation districts dimmed their lights and transit traffic slowed to a whisper, the Ark itself remained alive. The great engines deep within the ship's spine pulsed with steady power. Reactor chambers glowed with contained fusion fire. Life support systems breathed oxygen through the endless corridors of the vessel. Hydroponic gardens continued to grow food for millions. Mining ships drifted silently through the ring of Deus Domus, carving xenantium from ancient asteroids and hauling it back toward the Ark's refining platforms. Outside the massive observation windows of the Ark's outer decks, the ring shimmered like a frozen storm of metal and light. And below it all, the planet. Deus Domus. A massive sphere of violent storms, radioactive deserts, and shattered terrain. The failed terraforming attempts of Arc 34 had scarred the world deeply. The first decade of colonization efforts had ended in fire. Hundreds of nuclear detonations had been unleashed across the planet's surface in an attempt to accelerate atmospheric reforming and stabilize geological systems. Instead, they had awakened something worse. Radiation storms. Magnetic anomalies. Continental fault chains that cracked the planet's crust open like old wounds. Terraforming towers still stood on the surface, monuments to a dream that refused to die, but the planet remained hostile to Terran life. Still, Arc 34 remained in orbit. Because the xenantium deposits in the ring were too valuable. And the Ark's engineers had already begun reshaping the ship itself with the new material. New mech frames. Reinforced hull plating. Advanced power conduits. The Ark was evolving. Growing stronger. Preparing for a future that no one could fully predict. Most citizens aboard the Ark slept peacefully beneath that future. They trusted the systems. Trusted the core. Trusted the Directorate to guide the Ark safely through the centuries ahead. But one boy no longer trusted any of it. Artemis Golmir stood alone in Observation Dome 7. The dome had become something like a secret headquarters for the three of them. Nova and Rian had returned to their dorm sectors hours earlier after the discovery in Cargo Archive Deck 19. Neither of them had said much. There was nothing to say. The recording had changed everything. Artemis stood at the edge of the transparent dome staring into the void beyond the Ark. The ring of Deus Domus stretched across space like a celestial scar. Chunks of metal-rich asteroid rock drifted slowly through the darkness. Mining lights flickered between them like distant stars. Normally Artemis loved watching the ring. The slow movement. The silence. The scale of it all. Tonight he barely saw it. The recording replayed in his mind over and over again. His parents working in the maintenance tunnel. The masked figure stepping forward. The pistol. 2 flashes of light. Then silence. 8 years. 8 years he had believed the lie. A maintenance accident. Pressure surge. Fatal system failure. That was what the official report had said. That was what the Peace Corps caretakers had gently explained to him when he was just a child. He had mourned them. Missed them. Accepted their deaths as a tragic accident inside a dangerous job. But now he knew the truth. Someone had murdered them. Not a criminal. Not a pirate. Not some rogue scavenger hiding in the Ark's lower decks. The killer had worn a Directorate Corp uniform. The Directorate were the Ark's governing authority. Judges. Administrators. Lawmakers. The people responsible for maintaining order and justice across the entire ship. They were supposed to be the most trustworthy people aboard Arc 34. And one of them had executed 2 engineering core technicians in cold blood. Then covered it up. Artemis clenched his fists. His knuckles whitened against the glass. A quiet rage simmered in his chest. He wasn't the kind of person who shouted. He wasn't the kind who lashed out blindly. Artemis Golmir had spent most of his life watching, listening, learning. And now he had something to learn. The truth. Footsteps echoed behind him. He didn't turn. Nova's voice broke the silence. You're thinking about going after them. It wasn't a question. Artemis nodded slowly. Yes. Rian stepped beside Nova. This is Directorate, Artemis, he said quietly. They control ARC security, legal systems, most of the internal governance. I know. They could bury you. Maybe. Nova crossed her arms. You're not wrong, Rian. If Artemis starts digging into Directorate corruption, they could make him disappear. Artemis looked back at them. For a moment the quiet boy they had met in the cafeteria seemed gone. His eyes were sharp. Focused. You both saw the recording, he said. Nova nodded. Yeah. My parents were murdered, Artemis continued. And someone hid the evidence. Rian shifted uneasily. So what are you going to do? Artemis turned back to the stars. I'm going to find out who it was. Nova studied him carefully. And then what? Artemis didn't answer immediately. The silence stretched. Outside the dome, a mining frigate passed slowly through the ring field, its engines burning pale blue against the darkness. Finally he spoke. First I learn everything. About the Directorate. About that tunnel. About what my parents were working on. Nova smiled slightly. That sounds like a plan. Rian exhaled slowly. You realize this is probably going to get dangerous. Artemis looked back at them again. For the first time that night, there was a faint hint of the quiet boy they knew. I've been sneaking through ARC maintenance tunnels since I was 12, he said. Danger isn't new. Nova laughed softly. Good. She stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. Because if you're starting a war against corrupt Directorate officers. Her grin returned. You're not doing it alone. Rian nodded reluctantly. I guess I'm involved now too. Artemis looked between them. For a moment the weight pressing on his chest eased slightly. He wasn't alone. Not anymore. But the path ahead of them would not be simple. Because somewhere inside the vast hierarchy of ARC 34, inside the towers of Directorate authority, someone knew exactly what had happened in that maintenance tunnel 8 years ago. Someone powerful enough to erase evidence. Powerful enough to rewrite official reports. Powerful enough to kill without consequence. Artemis Golmir was no longer just another unevaluated student wandering the corridors of the academy. Now he had something else. A purpose. A mission that stretched far beyond classrooms and career evaluations. A quiet war against the shadows hiding inside ARC 34. And somewhere within the ARC's immense power structure, a Directorate officer had just become the most dangerous enemy Artemis would ever face. The ARC drifted silently above the hostile world of Deus Domus, unaware that a small spark had just ignited inside its own walls. A spark that would one day grow into something far larger. Something capable of shaking the very foundations of ARC 34 itself. This concludes part 1 of Artemis the Unevaluated within the Arcs of Terror series. If you enjoyed this series, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to get the call when more content drops.